Good afternoon, good afternoon. How is everyone? Oh, come on now, come on. It's been an extraordinary morning, an extraordinary day. And we get to wrap up everything this afternoon with the individuals who are truly the superstars of procurement, working the big contracts with a big city, of big shoulders. Our panelists today, welcome them all. Come on down. Stand up and let's give our rock stars a round of applause. We have Sherman Dillon Thomas, the city's biggest promoter. We have Cornelius Briggs, who's running in as second runner-up, and he's doing extraordinary things. The veteran who's done great things here in Chicago. Jacqueline Gomez, seeking out equal opportunity in the Hispanic community. Alan Turner, nobody knew this. Started a tech company, knew nothing about technology. We have Claude Robinson, and he is from the East Coast and doing brilliant things in the community as well. And John Warber at the airport, and he has concessions. And here with the city colleges of Chicago Public Schools with contracts, we have Miss Tina Ori Harris. Give them all a round of applause. The rock stars of Chicago procurement. Woo-hoo! So I didn't have any t-shirts to throw out, but we do have a lot of wisdom to share today. And I want everyone to really roll up your shirt sleeves. It's been an extraordinary morning with all kinds of good information being shared and some great wisdom from Ann McNeil. What are we going to do? We are going to read, meet, and give. And in between all that, make a whole bunch of money. How about that? So all of our extraordinary guests here today have done just that. We want to know from each and every one of you, your path, your journey. Because everyone here in the audience, they want to grow up and be just like you. And I want you to get your questions ready. I can ask you a gazillion questions, but only you have the questions that mean the most to you. So we will be opening up the floor to field your questions as well. And I've asked all of our panelists to share. I want them to be authentic. I want you to get down to the nitty-gritty. And once you think you have shared enough, share some more. Okay, that is their instruction. I ask that you do the same. I want you to ask big questions. I want you to ask the tough questions, the things that you've really been wondering about. And guess what else you guys get to do? You get to ask questions of each other. Because I'm sure on this panel, you have seen people rise up and you've said, how did you do that? Or you hit a pothole and you saw them hit that pothole and they came out. How did you do that? Right? So that's the kind of conversation we're going to have here today. One that will be empowering. One that will give you the information that you need to succeed in doing business with the city of Chicago. Our great city of Chicago! And listen, so our first speaker, I'm going to start down at the end because I understand that you have places to go and you got to move very quickly. We have Sherman Dillon Thomas. This gentleman has got to be the city's greatest promoter with over 300,000 followers and a gazillion videos telling his story about Chicago. Please share with us what you do, how you do it, and how did you get to be so big?
If I knew the answer to the last part, I'd be bottling it up and selling it at the airport, so that part I don't know. What I do know, though, my name is Dilla, I'm a Chicago historian. I create content, I run Chicago Mahogany tours, and then we also have Chicago Mahogany merchandise at Hudson stores out at O'Hare and Midway Airport. I would say it all started from the content. I'm sure it's like most folks here, I saw something, and instead of complaining about it, I figured why not do something about it. What that thing was is I was tired of people having something negative to say about Chicago. Most of the time they had something negative to say about Chicago without any sort of historical accuracy tied to it. And so I started telling Chicago history stories on TikTok. to kind of correct a lot of those narratives, right? And I also was trying to engage with my kids and show them that there's more than one way to use social media, right? It can be used for good. And from there, people in the comments would say, you know, I might take somebody in front of Robert Abbott's house and say that Robert Abbott is the guy who started the Great Migration because he invented the Chicago Defender newspaper, and that's what starts to call black people up. Or I might go to a little village and say that this is the Mexico of the Midwest, and I might stand in front of the clock. And people from other sides of the city would say, I didn't know that that was there, or I didn't know that that existed. So we started to take people on these tours so we can see Chicago as an asset. And yeah, that's what I do.
All right, well, thank you so much. I'm going to come back with a follow-up question. I want all of our panelists to introduce themselves first. And we have Mr. Warber next. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me. By the way, my kid's a big fan. So he follows you. I learned something new about Chicago every time I watch one of your reels, so keep doing it. My name is John Warber. Just quick snapshot. I'm a first-generation American from Argentina. My first language is Spanish, and Mom was a CPS school teacher. Right? So she taught in Little Village, second grade. So recently retired. So from there, I got involved in just actually going to school with her. She would take me with her to city colleges of Chicago. She taught night school here, and didn't want to leave me alone with my brothers, I suppose. I got to know the city a little bit and wanted to work in the city in some capacity, so I got into getting certified as an ACDBE. So the ACDBE program is a DBE program, which is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, but for the airport. And with that, it opens some doors and some opportunities for you to have meetings with prospective vendors and master concession operators, and even if you want to run your own operation or your own retail or food store at the airport, that enables you to access the airport. So I recommend that everybody gets certified in some capacity as an MBE, a DBE, an ACDBE, and so on and so forth. So those folks are here to help do that, and I currently am a partner on a sizable food and beverage operation at O'Hare. We launched a number of restaurants this year. We launched a Bar Sienna in collaboration with Chef Fabio Viviani, which is a well-known celebrity chef. We have a Hampton Social, which is a pretty cool restaurant slash bar type tavern, and we have the Dearborn, which is coming on later on this year. The Dearborn is a well-known restaurant in the theater district, owned by a couple of Irish ladies, immigrants as well, and doing their thing in the city, and we're happy to bring them into the airport. So a lot of opportunity at the airport. Something interesting was announced today, an opportunity for those of you that want to participate as a vendor or as a food and beverage brand or even professional services. So keep an eye out for that, and with that, I will pass it over. Thank you.
Alrighty. Miss Tina Laurie Harris. Bling, 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 bling.
Yes, hi. Hi, everybody. Hello. Thank you, Deborah, for the energy.
Yes. Well, you all energizing. Aren't they energizing? Come on.
I mean, that's your success. I'm like a celebrity apprentice over here. No, hey, everybody. It's so good to be here. I am Tina Laurie Harris. I am a servant for the Chicago Public Schools. I have 330,000 bosses, the children of Chicago. And then I got a couple of other bosses, too, that are chiefs of the city. I am a daughter of Chicago, third gen, product of public school, proud Chicago public school kid, product of public housing. I am the underdog. I'm here just to share whatever I can to help you be motivated and inspired for your businesses. What I do for the Chicago Public Schools, I make sure that our contracts have a diversity spin. We shoot for 37%. It is aspirational because we know that the Supreme Court said there is no race, there is no gender. But we still set the goals at 37%. And I'm proud to say that Chicago Public Schools has the best numbers in the country, that we are the billionaire club. Can I say that again? I said billionaire club. billions of dollars that we serve our children with do business with the district. So I'm just very humbled and honored to be here. Thank you for the City of Chicago to invite me. Thank you for the new Acting Chief Roberts. Thank you for the First Deputy Tahita Henton. Thank you, Jacqueline, for having us here, Jacqueline Humbles. It's such excitement, and I can't wait to share stories with you. And I love Dilla too. I'm, over here, who's gonna talk after me? She doesn't know she's been my mentor for 10 years. Oh. So I'm sitting next to, she was my invisible mentor. So now I get to sit next to her, a full circle moment for you. So with Grace, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you so much.
All righty. We're going to get back to that inspiration a little bit later, but first, my dear friend, Ellen Roswell Turner, President and CEO of the William Everett Group. Now, this is what's extraordinary about her. She says she didn't know anything about technology, and now she has an award-winning, globally recognized technology firm. All righty, Ms. Ellen, please.
Thank you,
Rock us with that.
That's so sweet, and thank you. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. This is really a full circle moment for me. And you're right, Devorah, my aspirations were to be one of the first sports female journalists. That was my dream growing up. And, life changes. And the other thing I wanted to do is something in the public sector. And by chance, I ended up at the City of Chicago in the mayor's office and got connected to a woman who would become the first CIO for the City of Chicago. And that's how I came into public sector. And so I spent 4 years there working on a lot of projects, which, believe it or not, they are projects that my company, we're partnering on right now. I started in '97, left right before 2021, and here I am, a panelist with one of the largest female, Black-owned, generational. I have my children are legacy going to be taking over for me. My company is the William Everett Group. It's named after my grandfather. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri during the Civil Rights Movement, so this is really a big deal for me. When I was a child growing up in St. Louis, we were not allowed really to dream, from people around us, to dream bigger than that beautiful neighborhood that we lived in. So now to be sitting here, owning a company with over 150 employees, now a national company, working on projects that I started over 20 years ago, the 311 project. Everybody uses 311, right? Well, I was help bring that. We work on parking management. So after you get a ticket, our company works on that. I'm trying to use projects that people might understand that what we love about the work that we do is, even though I worked in public sector, I wanted to stay in public sector, I ended up doing and starting a company where we service public sector. So it's management and IT. I'll talk a little bit more about it, but I'm certainly honored, and I want to thank our acting CPOs, Charlotte Roberts, John Robertson, Jacqueline, who's been such an amazing support, and everybody at DPO for inviting me to be here today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Cornelius Grizzle. Okay, I got two gentlemen here. Okay, let's back it up. Claude Robinson. Absolutely. Hailing from the East Coast, Philadelphia, found his way to get out of the trouble, just like the Prince of Bel-Air. And wound up at the Naval Academy. And then after he dropped anchor here, and created a very, very successful business as well. So tell us about your story. What say you?
Sure, Deborah, thanks for sharing that aspect. My mother did move from Philadelphia, came to Chicago and went to Oak Park. She's an Air Force veteran, so she moved around a little bit. And she tried to get me out of the inner city of Philadelphia. Come to find out, when I came here, I was an athlete that I ended up being at 62nd and Calumet, at the Calumet building with some of my teammates. And then when she was at Oak Park, I ended up being over at the park on Jackson, Columbus Park. So she was like, oh my God. She was like, I get you out of the East Coast, and here you are in the hood. This is back in the 80s, y'all. So if y'all think it's bad now, back then it was real thick. So, but I am the founder and president of Onyx Strategic Partners, a strategic business consulting firm that focuses on government and community affairs strategies, organizational program design, project management, and then also executive leadership training. And the purpose of the group is to work with nonprofits to help them deal with the complexities of working in corporate America, working across government, and then also the philanthropic circles. And I have a niche of smaller nonprofits that I work with to help them move through those complexities. Oftentimes, people don't recognize that smaller nonprofits or smaller businesses that don't have the capacity to have somebody that can represent them to help them grow scale. So I'm a lobbyist as well, state, local, national lobbyist. So I get a chance to really see what's happening and find ways to have equity at the table around decisions that are being made. Just 10 days ago, in walking distance from here, there's a new, you heard the gentleman talk about the new development that's going to come here on the west side of Chicago. And they had a pretty rough meeting because they didn't do their due diligence in the community and found that the community wasn't necessarily as welcoming as they thought they would with this project. And what I found over the years is that whether you're a corporation, global, multinational, or whether you're a smaller organization, oftentimes you don't have the lens of the community, especially the lens of the Black and the brown communities. And what we do at Onyx is try and help those that are making the decisions and that have the revenue to actually build a project understand how to come in with integrity, with an equity lens, and one that's going to respect the community there. So I'm delighted to be here now and to share some other stories that I have around lobbying and government affairs.
All righty, thank you. And we have Jackie Gomez, and she is a staunch advocate for Hispanics in the construction business.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here with everyone here. I loved also the intro music. Talk about I'm going to bring that to all other events. I think that's great. So not all of us could be owners. I'm not an owner. I'm not an entrepreneur from that lens. I'm here, in my capacity as Executive Director of HACIA, or the Hispanic American Construction Industry Association, I service small businesses, minority business, women businesses, disadvantaged businesses. I'm here to strongly advocate and promote the inclusion of minority businesses in the construction industry. HACIA is a 45-year-old organization, nonprofit in the Chicagoland area. We do advocacy, training, and we are a membership organization. In terms of the training that we do, we have workforce pre-apprenticeship training programs, and we also do small business capacity training programs. While the word HACIA is in the name, I do want to make sure that folks know that we are not just for Hispanic businesses or Hispanic entrepreneurs. That was maybe 45 years ago when there was no voice for the Hispanic community. We have long moved on to understand that we are stronger together. We have moved the needle better if we work together. So we are a very diverse organization, and we train a diverse group, particularly our Black and brown communities, as the folks that we are trying to uplift and promote and empower. So I serve to help the business community and hoping to see you thrive and grow, and we want to be here to support that. Thank you.
Thank you. And the gentleman to my left is Mr. Cornelius Griggs. He is a decorated veteran and took that expertise and built up part of Chicago and built up a successful business in the process.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Great. I'm Cornelius Griggs. I'm the president and CEO of GMA Construction Group. We are a national builder of affordable housing, healthcare, education projects across the country. My primary focus is affordable housing. That's what we do best. That's about 80% of our book of business, and we do it in Chicago, Dallas, New York, Charlottesville, Virginia, and Charlotte, North Carolina. We probably do somewhere in the realm of about $200 million of construction work a year. We are a minority certified business. We're also a member of HACIA, so I second that HACIA is there to support all businesses, black and brown. We've been a member there for a number of years. But more importantly, our goal is to better our communities. That's what we strive to do across the country, underserved communities. I grew up in the west side of Chicago in Cabrini Green Projects with the high school at Near North, and then went on to college and later the Army and did a bunch of stuff like that. So excited to be here, share my experiences with you. I've done a number of things across multiple different industries, too much to talk about in one introduction, but would love to get to know most of you in the room and share some of my stories as well.
So, Mr. Hill, round of applause for all of our panelists. Mr. Hill, I'm going to start with you again. How did you go from Facebook to getting contracted with the city to do extraordinary work? And share with us your growth journey.
One, I found myself at a pretty good moment in time where the city of Chicago had newly created the Office of Racial Equity, and so they were looking to start to tell more of the stories of how Chicago becomes the most segregated city in America, right? Why is there such disparities in certain zip codes, right? And my ability to tell stories and my willingness to tell those stories on social media kind of put me in front of them. And so that's how I got the attention to do business with the city. And then I'm trying to get everybody, including these business folks, to use more of a historical lens. The thing I say every day is if it has a name, it has a history, right? So if you got a building project and you're going to build it on, Cadville Street, why is that Cadville, right? And from there you can learn more about the built environment. So that's what really got me started with the city, not just with the city, a number of the universities. One of the things that I'm proud of that's also been a part of my growth strategy is educating folks who are new to Chicago. My company, Chicago Mahogany, we take out all M1 students, so first year medical students, for University of Chicago and Northwestern, because they're gonna come here and be residents and work on folks. Then it's one thing to say, hey, these patients live in a food desert or food apartheid. It's another thing for them to come see there's one grocery store in this 2-mile radius, right? So, when you're telling grandma to get on a Mediterranean low-sodium diet, right, you need to come see how possible that really is if she lives in certain spaces. And then the other part of it, I guess my growth strategy, I would recommend for everybody is to, when you see something wrong with a situation, before addressing address the wrong, but then also, how can we resolve the wrong? I'll give you an example of what I mean. I was talking to the Department of Aviation folks, and I'm like, how many minority-owned businesses are represented in concessions, right? And how are you supporting those businesses, right? Or just making people aware of the connection between the built environment, the history of that built environment, and the future of our city, and how the two don't have to necessarily be separated from each other. We can't have historical preservation and future building. The example is the 43rd Green Project, right? Those two buildings by Brother Phil Beckham are a direct correlation because Bernard Lloyd saved the Forum, which is across the street, right? So I think that's been how I've been able to grow. Basically, when I recognize a problem or something that I see that needs to be addressed, I always ask myself, how can I help them address that? And then I present that as part of the plan.
I would like for our other members of the panel to address that. The first rule of business is, what do we know, right? What is the problem you're going to solve? And then the next question behind it is, how are you going to solve it? So what was the problem that each of you recognized that needed to be solved, and then you saw a pathway uniquely, because of your skill set or whatever it was you brought to the table, to solve that problem? Ellen, I got to start with you because you didn't know anything about technology.
Wait, first of all, that's not true. Yeah, before I came to the city, I was not involved with technology, but after I came and worked, I started out in the mayor's office, with a strategic planning group to help the technology department as they looked across all 42 departments at the time to actually have them put together a strategic plan so they could run their departments like a business. And then if we could find some technology they could use to be more efficient, that's what our job was. I stayed there for 4 years. I started another company with a technology firm with a couple of other partners. I worked for another large minority-owned technology firm. And at some point, I felt like I can do this. I was making a lot of money for a lot of other people. And I decided that what the problem was I saw was that there weren't very many female-owned technology firms. When I was, looking for subcontractors at my other companies, we could never find any females that owned female technology consulting firms. So I knew there was a market. But the other big thing was what I kept seeing when I was at the city and at these other companies, when we would go to partner with the big tier 1 firms, Accenture, IBM, Deloitte, there were no black folks. And people were telling me all the time that they were applying, but they were not getting jobs. So I just kept having this dream that when I am queen and I own my own business, and also black men were being not hired either, that I was gonna start a firm, I was gonna, fit the need of the market to have a female-owned technology firm. Also, I had garnered so much experience working in the public sector, bringing, innovation and technology to government. I really felt personally that I could help other government agencies think about how to bring innovation to government. So I got my 3 or 4 things done. I started a black female-owned firm. I hired a bunch of black and brown folks. We were probably 80% minority employees. I found a bunch of wonderful white folks like Dave, who was on that agenda with me. Because, think about it. You're talking about all this diversity all the time, but you have non-black, brown people, and they got to be down for the cause, right? So we did that. We give back charitably to our communities where we live and work. And we get to now have a legacy business that I hope my son and daughter will keep for their children. So those are the things that I saw that we needed in our black community and the technology community. And, I also get to be queen every day, so that works for me.
And thank you for clearing up that urban lore. But it's a great story, isn't it?
I'm so brilliant. I don't know anything about technology, and I'm successful. But yeah, you kind of do need to know. Yeah. Or know some smart people.
But Mr. Walker, I'd like to go to you because I'm wondering if for you having several shops or entities at the airport, was that solving a problem or taking advantage of a great opportunity?
I think it's a little bit of both. So, as a Chicagoan, you travel through the airport, right? We've all been to O'Hare for the past few decades. It looked a lot like it did back in the 90s from the food and beverage perspective. And oftentimes one person's vision for food and beverage or for concessions is what you get. So when you talk about diversity, what really represents Chicago? Is it one person's vision, or is it a multitude of black and brown brands, restaurants, neighborhoods, the entire gamut? I kind of look at when you watch a movie and you see a Chicago police car and it has red police lights on it. You can see, if you're from Chicago, in a second that's not a Chicago police car. Okay? Or if you're looking and the street signs are blue, that's not Chicago. Right. So as a Chicagoan, I walked to the airport this is not Chicago. So I was very happy when the opportunity came up for food and beverage concessions that I could bring some of those brands that I had formed relationships with that were a better representation of the hospitality scene in Chicago versus somebody from Europe representing Chicago's food and beverage scene. So yes, I think there was a need and there was an opportunity. So when preparation meets opportunity, that's when the magic happens.
Thank you for that. Claude, I'm curious to know from you earlier, you were going, oh yeah, it was the Amen Corner going on over here. What were you thinking and feeling?
So the opportunity in the legislative and government space for Black lobbyists is exponential. And the opportunity for me to create a pathway for smaller nonprofits or smaller businesses to actually get access to power is something that does not happen most of the time. Back in the early 90s, I remember sitting in a meeting with then Mayor Richard Daley, and Governor Blagojevich was in the meeting as well. And there was 6 of us in the room. And we presented an ask of about $6 million. And then the governor said, "Is that all?" And then to me, I was like, damn, he just said, is that all? And we were sweating. Is this too much? And everything. And then after the meeting, I asked the mayor, I was like, hey, Mayor, I was like, how did you get to where you are? And then he put up this little Cheshire cat smile and was like, you got to get people that look like you in positions of power to help you be successful and to drive your agenda. And then I was like, damn, so he was like, so next time you go in the room, whether in Springfield or in DC, and there's lobbyists around, he goes, I want you to take notes. And sure enough, when I did a scan, most of the people did not look like me, which means that many of the organizations that I represent in my portfolio aren't going to get access and aren't going to be in the room of power. So way back in the 90s, I understood that I had to find a way to create the platform that I could create these opportunities for smaller nonprofits and smaller businesses to be even considered for an opportunity. And I remember that vividly to this day. Earlier this year in Springfield, there was a big announcement about a new football stadium or something here in Chicago, right?
Very
I'm
big.
sure everybody has heard about it, right?
Yeah.
It was the same day that the Illinois Black Caucus was putting out their agenda for FY25, last year's budget, and some discussions about next year's budget, FY26. And I was tired as hell. I was sitting around the rail and everything, and I was tired as hell. Like, I don't know if you've ever been there. It's an amazing experience if you're down in Springfield to watch how things move. And then in Washington, D.C., it's even crazier. And I was just sitting outside of the Speaker Welch's office to take a quick break. And then all these cameras were outside waiting, and I was like, oh, Reinsdorf is here. But what was great is as he walked by and his 10 lobbyists that were there, none who looked like me, as they walked by, I looked, and then I saw Nosa from BOA right there. And then Noah, as he looked at me, and then I looked at him, and he was like, that's the type of connection, that's the type of access to know that there are people who look like me that are working towards equity. And that opportunity is there in an incredible way, and it's one that's under attack as we sit here right now in all forms of business where this is trying to be wiped away. So if anybody, when we talk about what's the moment right now, the moment is to fight with as much intelligence, intensity as possible to ensure that Black, brown, women-owned businesses are going to actually be a part of the economic structure. And I'm not talking about just one company or 2 companies that get in and then shit is supposed to be good from there. Right. I'm talking about where there's a wide swath of Black and brown and women-owned businesses that are in the mix on these things.
It takes a lot of energy and hard work for these things to become transformative. So that we move from being in one space and we evolve into another space that becomes the norm. And so understanding how that process is something that we have to wake up every morning and exercise due diligence. I wanted to go to you, Ms. Gomez, and talk about some of the hardest things that you were able to, your greatest accomplishments first. What is your greatest achievement to date in terms of being an advocate, and what has been the toughest battle?
Oh, it's like a double-edged sword right there, because I feel like they're two in one. One, I just hearing Claude talk about being at the rail down in Springfield, it's real. And so one of the biggest challenges, but yet greatest rewards, has been advocating truly on behalf of minority women, small businesses, when you're talking to your elected officials and trying to share with them the message and the struggles that small businesses face. And not just small businesses, right? It's like, yes, small business already face barriers. Just imagine if you're Black, brown, it adds another dimension. And then let's talk about the construction industry, which is even hard. So it's adding the layers and being able to share that story and being able to advocate and say, no, this bill or this piece of legislation that you all are considering to pass is going to be detrimental to small businesses that look like me, that look like Claude. And so being there and facing big, huge organizations or the folks that have big, deep pockets, because sometimes that's something that you face, that's the reality of things, where they're able to fund dollars and put money into like campaigns, and you're here like fighting the good fight. You're like, I don't care, I'm the small dog, but we have the right, like we have things that need to be heard. And so I think that has been a big challenge, because you're going up this huge mountain, but then when you get there, and you just need a couple of people that advocate and listen to you, and they're like, I get it, that makes sense. And it's such a huge release to see that people understand it, and then win them over to be on your side, to, again, for the greater cause. And to Claude's point, again, I think that's a really great point, is that we are currently facing a situation where minority and women business programs are being attacked, where they could go away, and all of a sudden we don't have programs that help ensure that minority women businesses are going to be at the table. So it's real. And so I think that's why I say it's a challenge, but at the same time it's super rewarding to see that.
Yeah. So I'm going to take this moment to do my shameless promotion for a good cause. Register to vote. Right. I have a major initiative called Know Your Power going on right now. But the very things that you were talking about here, the quick resolution is for us to let our voices be heard and to vote. I am also hearing, and Mr. Griggs, please chime in on this as well. I'd like to hear from you in terms of being a veteran and the provisions that are offered through the procurement process, how that may have benefited you. But the need to have our own lobbyists. Is that a new business opportunity that we might be need to explore, having our own PACs and lobby groups?
Real quick, can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Courtney, I spoke with a couple of businesses earlier today. I mean, if Coca-Cola, if Boeing, if Amazon, if Nike, all the Estee Lauder, all these companies, they invest in a lobbyist or somebody that's going to help with advocacy. They're not doing that just because it's cute. It's a business strategy that helps them advance their economic agenda or their brand agenda. Yeah, I mean, some stuff is pretty simple, and it's just a matter of dollars and cents. You won't see most of them, but I promise you, lobbyists are getting the work done on behalf of those companies. And you'll hear it in the debate next week. Big pharma, big tech, blah blah blah. Massive public affairs teams behind them to get their agenda back.
Mr. Griggs.
I think I will, just chime in there on the importance of having someone who can represent your organization. First, it starts with you, right? You have to be able to tell your own story. I agree, at this point in my business, lobbyists are helpful, but when I first started, I couldn't afford a lobbyist, right? Let's just be real. Everybody can't, go spend $15,000 a month hire a lobbyist. So I like that, but folks in the room who are starting businesses or may have businesses, you know what it's like in your overhead expense. Lobbyists ain't in my budget for 2023, right, before. But what you do is you become your own lobbyist the best way you can, right? And that is being very strategic and focused on what you're trying to accomplish each year as a business owner. What I tend to find is that folks create business plans that are too big for them to swallow at one time. And you can't get all those things accomplished in one calendar year. So you have to look at what's most important, what's gonna drive revenue. Every day I wake up in the morning, there's 3 things I think about. First, are my employees being paid? Second, how am I gonna get paid, right? I gotta go look at my receivables and find out what dollars are coming in. And then I look at the rest of the expenses that have to go out the door. Those are my day-to-day thoughts when they wake up in the morning. That's what my CFO sends me every day. So you have to be able to drive that forward. As it relates to your question around the veteran programs, yes, I'm a veteran. I spent 14 years in the military as an Army contracting officer. That's how I got into construction. That's how I got my degrees. The Army paid for them, 2 master's degrees, a bachelor's degree, and I later came out and worked for big companies and started my own, back in 2015. But those programs are helpful to the extent that you need them. I benefited from the fact that I had 14 years of experience in the military and another 10 years of experience in big corporations. So I didn't necessarily need the MBE program or the DBE program or the VBE program, because when I started my business, I just wanted to compete like every other business. I didn't want to be seen as the black business. I didn't want to be seen as the small veteran-owned business. I just wanted to compete because I had the same skill set as anybody else, right? When those programs became helpful to me is when I started pursuing contracts that were just too large for me to handle and chew on my own. So then I had to have a carrot that I could pitch to a majority firm on why I should be your partner. And unfortunately, the only time majority firms want to talk to you is when they need a minority partner. That's just the way it works, right? I mean, it's the nature of the beast. I hope it changes one day, but today, that's the only time my phone rings is when the majority firm is chasing a large project and there is a minority goal. They never call me when they need to build the next high-rise downtown, because they can do that on their own, right? And that's just the way it works. But that's when having that veteran or that minority piece worked. Now, the city of Chicago has a veteran preference program. I have bid a few projects where I'm able to utilize my veteran preference, meaning if I bid a project, I get a 5% preference. So I can be 5% higher on my bid, and I can still be the lowest qualified bidder because I am a military veteran. So I have used that program before. Unfortunately, I've never won anything in that bid. But it does exist, and maybe I should bid more city contracts. They just don't pay me fast enough, but I can bid more city contracts and get some of those. But those programs are out there, and they are helpful if you're trying to to get your foot in the door.
I wanted to jump in about the lobbyist point, especially for those who have new businesses. While I agree with the brother that you might not have access to the capital to pay professional lobbyists, what you do have in Chicago is people like me who are social media influencers who don't cost the same amount that a lobbyist costs. Now, one day I hope that I can ask you for 15 grand, but that ain't where my price point is right now. A whole lot cheaper. But I'll give you an example. When the previous administration was hosting the DNC selection committee to see if they would pick Chicago, they asked me to give them a tour to talk about the history of Chicago, how we've had more presidential national conventions than any other city. The one that just passed was number 26, and to show them some of the historical stuff. So once the DNC selected Chicago, I used my bully pulpit, and I went online and started to use my platform that I had created to say, when the DNC comes to Chicago, we need to see some of that $30 million spent with minority-owned businesses. And I put that out there in a tweet, and then Block Club called me, then the Tribe called me, then the Sun Times called me to say, what you mean? So all of them interviewed me, and then when those interviews dropped, the DNC reached out to me, because instead of having me be a bully on one side, so why don't you connect us to some of these minority businesses so that we can make sure you can do that same thing. There are a ton, there are a number of influencers that have millions of followers here that you could be mentoring on the business side, right? There was a lot of folks that wanted me to create TikTok videos about their business, taught me about business, right? Taught me how to create my business, taught me about how to file my taxes properly, taught me how to create a non-for-profit. Sometimes the work was a trade, right, without any money. It just put me on the game, which is a ton of money later on. And so because of that, the DNC picked Glenn Charles Jr. to be the guy that built out the whole entire United Center. Juan T. got picked. Stephanie from Brown Sugar Bakery had to make 3,000. Struggle Beard Bakery. They picked me to give delegates tours during the week, and everybody got paid. So government officials are on all social medias, and their aides are too. And so you can connect with a social media influencer to push the narrative that you're trying to push and still reach them, right? Because just as much as the lobbyists have contact with them, they don't want a guy with 1 million followers saying anything negative because, you know, you ain't working with people in your neighborhood who are trying to start businesses. You want to scare an alderman, make an Instagram reel. It's still pretty good.
Well, listen, we want to thank you for being a guerrilla lobbyist. And Mr. Griggs, we want to thank you for your service. And so we certainly want to acknowledge that as well, right? So Ms. Harris, I'm chomping at the bit too, so you respond to whatever you want to, but we all want to know, the Billionaires Club, how did you do that?
Well, I wanted to just kind of have a response about both lobbying and not getting contracts and not getting paid by government agencies. Because
We all want to hear more about that.
That's a legitimate thing, and I am a servant and work for the city of Chicago Public Schools, and there are challenges there and there were problems, but I will say that there have been improvements with the ERP system. There's been lots of things being mitigated. I sit on a committee for quick pay. Like I sit on that committee to make sure that I talk to the comptroller to make sure that we're paying on time. And then in terms of like having opportunities that have been deferred, I won't say they haven't happened yet, Mr. Griggs. They're deferred.
Just been deferred for a
Yeah,
decade.
I know, that's fine. I want to encourage, and this is for the folks that aren't doing 200 million yet, right? I want to encourage you to do joint ventures. This is something that people don't talk a lot about. To connect with the big primes and to service and be a partner before they need you. Because the relationship is your net worth. It is not like what you do, it's who you know. Like you can have all the credentials, all the receipts, but it's who you know. And frankly, that's why I'm sitting here, is because someone heard me speak and they knew me and they were appreciative of what I've said. And I've had chances to meet a lot of people here already. The joint ventures give you a lens to partner with a billion-dollar corporation like the Q or Power for a small corporation who is starting out to have access. The biggest challenges, I will say, for businesses is the risk. It's the amount of insurance that you need to do business with Chicago. So anyone listening and want to come with me, I am doing like a lot of quiet lobbying to form an umbrella for risk management for an insurance bond to help people who have equity under $5 million. That's just something I'm putting out there for people who are interested, who are into risk management. And everyone knows, as an actuarian or anyone that does insurance coverage, they know for fact that you need insurance. So even if you're the best builder or the best tech, the best lobbyist even, you still gotta have some insurance. Everyone needs it, and we all know that it costs. Joint ventures and projects starting out and signing up in advance. I want to encourage all the, I want to focus on folks who won't have it yet. Look at the RFP that has closed. Who got it? You can learn from them. You can see who got it. You can see who submitted. You can follow those trails. You know, I always say success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. So talk to those folks who have gotten it. And if you know Airmark had a contract for 10 years, why not talk to the Airmark rep? Why not get in front of them to share that so you can share what you've done? And I'll just share one big thing that Chicago Public Schools done. It was in the press. It was a remarkable thing. We unbundled our custodial union labor contract. First time in 10 years. $900 million contract to a corporation is now in the hands of 5 MBEs.
Wow.
And that contractor, that MBE, still needs a it's the small things. And when I speak just, and this is just my own story, my paycheck isn't just my paycheck. I'm a woman of color from Chicago, from the South Side. South Side? I'm a woman of color from the South Side, and my check takes care of my nieces, my little niece that's getting ready to go to college, my daughter, my mom, so the abuelas, the tios, the tias, those black and brown families who are earning money, that money is not just for their corporation. That money is for their family, and just like Ms. Ellen told us, generations. And when you see one family, one woman got a $1.3 million contract for union custodial labor, living wage, sustainable wages, this is what makes change. This is what builds the middle class. And my whole career, I was a shark. My whole career was I'm a capitalist, shark. And during COVID, I made a lot of people rich. And one of the hedge fund guys that I was managing one of his skyscrapers in New York City, he called me, he left, he stayed on his boat all during COVID. He's like, Tia Lori, I'm not coming back on the States. He called me from his satellite phone on his yacht. And I thought, what in the heck am I doing?
We're all
He's so rich. He is so rich. And then I said, I'm getting out of this. And I started saying, I'm going to help my city, I'm going to help my people. And I pivoted, and I got invited to do work at University of California at Berkeley. I thought I was going to leave the shot. No way, can't do it. Stayed at Berkeley. Came back, and then I was focused. I said, I'm only going to look for work for the city, to show my Shark Tank antics, entrepreneur. I'm in the billionaire club. I managed billions of dollars in assets my whole career. Helped build the Butterfly Building at the Rush Hospital. Responsible for $116 million in carpet and window treatments. I think I know a little bit about how to do specification and how to sell stuff. So why shouldn't someone like me, Harold Akes, Lynn Bloom, Haynes, Underdog, all of this looks great, but it didn't start here. The little black girl sitting on 23rd and State. So I want to encourage you, anyone that is here who wants to do the joint venture, insurance broker, and talk to people like me who will help you. I'm a servant. Don't buy me lunch. Don't invite me to nothing, because I'm going to tell you no. Because I don't want any play-to-play. I don't want to have anything that's not transparent and clear. And people like me, we are integral. We are involved. We are there. We stand up. Because there won't be any moment that I don't need to have the lights and the camera. I want to see that $1.3 million contract for that mama on the west side, who now is going to take care of Auntie and Tia and the abuela. They're going to take care of them. So I just wanted to say that, because there are a bunch of have-nots, but I want to say that wherever you are in your business, wherever you are in your track, remember Apex, remember the SBA, remember these locations that can help you. And then if you're a faith person, you can go to St. Sabina, you can go to the Joseph Center at Living Word Church. There's so many places, Apostolic Church of God. I can give you a whole list of people who are for black and brown people and Latino people who help, so that it can be accessed, because it is under attack. SCOTUS has ruled it. There is no race. There is no gender. We all know that's a lie. We live in the most segregated city, right? Yeah. So we must do the things to promote the access. And it can start very small. And like I said, success leaves proof.
Can we give Mr. Dill a round of applause?
Can I speak to?
I'd like for her to also acknowledge something you can respond to her in the context of that. When she said earlier that you were her mentor, you didn't even know it. This is underscoring the importance of having mentors. And they don't necessarily have to be mentors that are like showing up in the face and like, tell me how that worked. And then Ellen, say what you got to say to her.
Well, I had known a little bit about William Everett. My brother is in tech, and so I'm not a technologist, my brother is. So I secretly keep a track record of all the black technologists, firms. And I secretly track, like, when they invent things, like they do some cool things. And he's not here, Greg Bush, he's another technologist with big info tech. Yeah. So I know all the black tech folks, even though they don't know me. So when I saw Ms. Allen and things she was doing, and then how she participates also with the National Black Association for Professional Public So there's like this thing that I always have like a secret, like, this is my mentor. Like, and you know, because when you're trying to do something that's never been done, right? I'm doing something that's never been done. When you're trying to do something that no one has done and you try to find someone in close proximity, it's easy to look at Oprah or Beyonce, right? It's very easy, or the Obamas, but to look at someone who like,
real models.
right, like people who are like in the shy, like go to the grocery store, go to that Costco. I know there's that opportunity, so that is how I've always been, because when I was looking out of the window at 2320 South State Street, an apartment 207, looking at what we now call the Green Line, we used to just call it the train, or the L. We're gonna get on the L. What that little girl had to be inspired to know, and I could take that 29th bus and get off and go to the Art Institute. I could go to the library. I could go to the museum, and my mom being a bookkeeper and working at Gucci. How does a black mama live in the projects and work at Gucci? Don't ask me. But that's what happened. Yeah, that's a story that's been written. But I say that to say, like, your mentors don't need to necessarily be on your phone. Your mentors can be just by your observation and your witnessing of what they're doing today.
Thank you for that.
I'm about ready to start crying here because we see each other. I had no idea. That means so much to me because I have so much respect for you. And we need more people like, because we are out here, you know, just like Cornelia said, hoping that people like her, she's out here advocating for us, and we want to see the difference. I'm out there bidding as a prime as well, and just wanting an opportunity. And if we don't have diverse environments where people see that we can do the same, we know everything that everybody else is doing, right? So thank you, and we need more people like you. I just wanted to also comment about the whole issue of insurance, too. My daughter Blair is here. She's a senior VP at our company, and oh my gosh, the whole issue of getting insurance for these deals. So if anybody is familiar with the request for qualifications, where you're trying to get on a pre-qualified list. So you're not guaranteed any work, but you're at least going to get the bids when they come out. One of the things that I was going to talk to the city and some of the agencies are about is the fact some of those RFQs, they want you to have, I'm just going to say a number, $10 million in cybersecurity, right? And so my insurance companies, and thank God Charles Smith is my insurance agent, because he can do magical things. But my insurance company is like, what am I insuring you against? You don't have a contract. I mean, because they want to mitigate the risk. Like, what are we giving the insurance for? And so that's one of the things that I think we want to kind of talk to, you know, the different sister agencies, governmental agencies, about aligning the requirement of how much insurance you have just to be on a qualified list versus, because remember, I mean, you would be, some of you would be shocked at how much money we have to pay for all of the insurances for contracts we haven't even gotten yet, right? That's a real cost. So I'm saying, why not say, here's the minimum to be on the list, and once you have a contract, then you can align the insurance with that. So I'm just throwing out there to the procurement universe, and on behalf of all the other minority and women-owned and small companies who are, you know, we are trying to do everything we can to be prepared to win, but we need folks to kind of help us out there.
Mr. Devorah, I'd like to go in and have you to address being prepared. You mentioned earlier about certifications. Can you give us deeper insight on what we need to prepare for, what our audience members need to be prepared for in that process?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to know, okay, how do I prepare? Okay, we talk about procurement, we talk about RFPs, we talk about opportunity. How how do you execute and how are you prepared to move forward? So I would say that the first thing you need to do is do your homework. You mentioned RFPs and they leave a trail of breadcrumbs. You can reverse engineer an RFP that's been awarded to see what can I do to emulate these firms, right? So I think the first thing you do is you have a capability statement, which is really, it's like a one-page document. It's got an interesting graphic on there. On there, you would, if you were certified, you would list your NAICS codes, NAICS, which is the organization that ranks whatever industry you're in. And whatever you're good at, you get certified. You put together the capability statement. The second piece, the important piece, is at least have an understanding of finance and how you might access capital, which is the number one cited issue or barrier to entry for minority-owned firms is access to capital. In the room next door, you see a few firms that are there. Wintrust, for example, is a firm, a bank, local Chicago bank. You've got BMO, which leans heavily into a program called Advantage Illinois. Advantage Illinois is a program that was put together to offer funding through the small business or through SBA funding or partner with the SBA local branch banks like Wintrust to make it easier for minority-owned firms to borrow capital. I think there's a program now that offers up to $2 million or 50% of a project with subsidized interest rates, which make it easy for you to attack these projects as a joint venture partner. Right? So do your homework. The certification process can be challenging. It's very bookkeeping centric, which means you get your, on all the resources are listed online, you can explore those, but you will need to put together your articles of incorporation, some contracts with some firms that you did business with so that you can prove that you can do this well. So it's a process, but once you have that, that's another step in that journey to partner as a potential joint venture partner, right? So go to the outreach events. Go to the local aldermanic events. Get to know who the players are. Seek out and find these RFPs that were awarded in your industry. You can do a FOIA request, which is the Freedom of Information request. You can see everything you need to know to educate yourself so that you can be viable as a partner with a prime. And when you talk about the $1.5 million contract per year, that's per year. That might be a $10 million or 10-year contract. Yeah. That's $15 million, right? And once you get the first contract, you're 3-4 years into it, you get the second one. That's right. And you stagger them out 20, 30 years so you can leave a generational play for your kids, right? That's building exactly the middle class.
What we're doing. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Great. I'm going to open it up to the floor. Do we have questions in the house? All the way in the back, of course. You get to get your jog on. Please have your questions ready, and we will approach all of our panelists with, or direct them to a specific individual if you prefer.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to direct this question to Mr. Griggs. And in the spirit of the last topic of cooperation and joint partnerships, as a general contracting MBE certified organization, how would one go about partnering with a prime such as yourself in order to be a part of larger scale projects? Thank you.
I think, partnership is, joint ventures are like marriages, right? We decide to get together, start an entity, sign a contract, and then go execute work together. It means I'm married to you for the next 18 to 24 months. So I gotta like you first, right? So I tell my wife, I love you. I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with you, but not that to that extent. But when we start a business, that is a long-term endeavor. So first, it's a relationship. Second, it's what asset do you bring to the table? And traditionally, when you're partnering with larger majority firms, the first asset is, are you MBE or WB? That's the first question that comes out of anybody's mouth from a majority perspective. That's why all these folks are saying you need to have an ACDBE, a DBE, or an MBE, right? Because that is the ticket that gets you in the door. But it doesn't keep you there, right? You have to be able to do the work. And that's why I mentioned earlier, my concern when I started my business wasn't to get a DBE or an MBE. I wanted to be a great technician. I need to be able to execute the work the same way they do it. Because once I'm in the room, I got to do the job. If not, I'm just a figurehead in the room and I don't get a chance to impact anybody's lives. I can't make any real decisions because I don't understand the decisions that are happening at the table. So the first part is relationship. You got to get to know me, I got to get to know you, and then I have to understand what your capabilities are, you understand what my capabilities are, and then we get married on a project and we complement each other on those capabilities. If you add no value to me and I add no value to you, then we don't get married, right? It just doesn't make any sense. But we have to add value to each other. When we find where we add that value, then we find the right opportunity, then we go get married and we make it happen.
Sounds like a lesson we can apply in our personal lives as well.
Like 90 Day Fiance.
Yes.
I don't have a question. I just want to thank Ms. Ellen and Ms. Tina for just coming and pouring into us and giving us your experience and being the ultimate awesome women that you are in business. And I also want to thank Ms. Jackson. It's kind of personal with me with her because I am a graduate from the lead construction program, Hacienda. So I want to thank you for everything that you have done to make sure that that program goes forth. So I appreciate you and thank you so much. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for?
Hello, my question is for Ms. Harris. I am a certified vendor for the Chicago Public School System. I'm also WMBE. My business, I teach financial literacy to children and also to adults. But for children, I have like game boards, puzzles, and workshops. I just need to know who can I contact within the CPS system in order to get my products into the schools. I'm also insured. Insurance is very high because I have the molestation insurance for coming into the school, and it's over $300 a month. So I'm with you on getting that insurance once we get the project going. But who can I talk to get my products into the Chicago Public School System?
Okay. There's only two ways to do business with Chicago Public Schools. You can do an RFP, an RFQ, and then the second way is sponsorship. Now, the products that you sell, sometimes the user groups will call them teaching and learning, college and career. If they want to do a small little RFP that's like under delegated 30, about $75,000, they could procure your merchandise. They could do it, like your widget, whatever you're selling. But there is no like introduction. Like I wish I could say, hey, here's the chief of XYZ. There is none of that because then I would appear to give people access, and then I would go on vacation. And I ain't going on vacation. Do I look like I want to be on vacation? But that's the way to do it. So another thing, if you have, this is entrepreneur Tina Laurie talking now. Go to the back to school bashes. Go to the community action council meetings. Meet your local, the LSC for the school board, because those people vote and they have power and they know the network chiefs, they know the principals, and the way I see it, like, at Chicago Public School, we have 640 schools. That means we have 640 mayors, right? So each of those schools, they have their own checkbook. And they can write a check up to $35,000. Copy, they cannot string it along, because then that'll be illegal and they'll go on vacation. But they can buy your things through a procurement that way. So I want to encourage you, do the back to school, talk to the Community Action Council, talk to the local LSC, go to those events that have the network chiefs, because there you'll meet the folks who can do smaller procurement. Because what I do, I procure the big things, right? Anything over $500,000, people are coming to see us. But we do have those smaller delegated authorities, but for the principals, they can buy something up to $35,000 without coming to see me or my chief. Does that help you? Okay, great.
Any more questions?
Yeah, we have a few. I'm asking the next one on behalf of a member down front, but if I bring this mic down there, that speaker's going to start screaming at all of us. So the question was, for those of you who have projects that include accessibility requirements, accessibility components, or opportunities, what are some of the considerations you look for when looking for partnerships with people who work work in the accessibility space.
For public? Sorry? Oh, yeah, sure. So, because our school, the average age of a Chicago public school building is 83 years old, so we are aggressively always trying to do ADA improvement. That's part of our capital plan. The way we prioritize construction is obviously the highest, most sort of safety, right? We're gonna go for the thing that needs to be fixed the quickest, fastest, or need to be mitigated. We're constantly trying to improve ADA rules and functions, just like CTA. We're an old school district. Our oldest school is 145 years old. Our average age of our school is 83. We have enough real estate that's like 41 Sears Towers. I refuse to say Willis. So we have a lot of buildings, a lot of stuff, but we accept contracts from everyone that's qualified. We vet them. We ask them all the same questions. They all get evaluated the same. There is no, I know a guy or someone has access to power or information. So we use Bonfire. Bonfire is up. It's 24/7. We have all of our contracts, past and closed and present opportunities. It's there for 20 years. You can see everything we've ever procured. And we also have our payments up for 20 years. So if you want to see who we're paying right now, you can go to Bonfire and you can see every dollar that we spend out. Because at the end of the day, it's the people's money, and we want to be very transparent with the people's money. This is not my money. It's not my cousins and my aunties. This is the people's money. So it's important to have that integrity and to be transparent with it.
You know, I want the crowd to take note of that terminology she used, Bonfire. It's a system that is used nationally. Most municipalities and public procurement uses this system to propagate and syndicate RFP information and keep you attuned of what's coming, when it's due, different changes, RFIs, all kinds of different things. So sign up for Bonfire, you put your competency codes in there, and it will filter and send you relevant procurement opportunities. So important.
And some government entities have, they have preferences for people with disabilities. So like in the military, you could be a disabled veteran and you get a preference, and there's a whole pool of contracts that are only available to people with disabilities. And it's the same thing. I believe the city of Chicago has a preference for people with disability as well, and they have it in other states. So if you are a person with a disability, there is an advantage, you know, in some municipalities for you to be able to compete for public projects. There you go. You should become. You should go after both sides of it. I'm a disabled veteran as well, so.
Any other questions from the floor?
This question is for Devorah and for Mr. Griggs. You both talk about partnering. Mr. Griggs, you mentioned that you didn't get a call from a crime. You yourself had to actively seek to be a joint venture partnership with the crime. Now, Mr. Rober, you didn't say like how you were able to connect with the prime operator that you're operating with. So what was your experience? So I mean, you can answer, you know, add, you know, a little bit or something if you could, please.
Bottom line, how'd you do that?
Bottom line, okay, you have to kind of elbow your way into the room, so to speak. Obviously, the preparation, having your capabilities, and everything, having the competency to sit in the room and actually know your craft is paramount, first and foremost. The secondary thing is the ticket to the show, which is the certification. But you need to show up. You need to be, and we said before, your own best lobbyist is yourself. No one is going to put the passion and the hours and the phone calls and the emails and all of the legwork and grassroots marketing of yourself and your personal brand than you do. You are the best at that. So I think that is the way into the room. And a little bit of cold calling doesn't hurt, right? You have to have materials that market yourself. You have to have the one-pager. You have to have the clean email. And I would say to you, less is more. Don't get into the habit of writing a long email. Type a short email. And when you think you've got the email ready to go, take it, plug it into ChatGPT or plug it into Meta, and ask it to reduce it to 140 characters. Okay? Then send that one.
Is that what you did?
I'm doing it now.
It all works, right?
I mean, to that point of, you know, how do you get your business in the room and make a joint venture happen? Because they can be critical at certain junctures of your business. You just have to understand when it's needed, right? And understand what the other party can get out of that as well. For me, getting in the room didn't necessarily involve cold calls. I think that's a great way to go. But I always try to find a different way to put myself on someone's radar. I always say I want folks to walk in the room and see me in the room and not know how I got there. So I competed on contracts that were of my size against larger firms who would come down into my space, especially during the recession. Larger contractors were bidding on work that was in my space, and I would kick their ass all the time. So when you started doing that, your name started showing up on their radar. They probably weren't looking to partner with me, but they saw I had the capacity to win these smaller contracts. We talk about the $1.5 million contract. Whoever that person is, they now have that experience. And when the next big contract comes up, they're gonna be able to say, well, I did a contract with CPS. Well, that's what I was able to say, regardless if it was 5 million or 200 million. I had that experience, and that put me on their radar. So then when I reached out to say, hey, I have a larger project that I'm in queue for, I think this might be a good opportunity for us because I can only execute 20% of it or 30% of it, but you can execute the other 70%, and then we can have this relationship where you have a minority partner with a majority partner, and now we can fill requirements that need to be met in that RFP. You have to be strategic about how you want to get in front of folks. I mean, you think about how many people come up to you in a day when you're at an event like this. Everybody's trying to connect with you. Everybody's trying to make connections. You're shaking hands, passing cards. I always say, you walk out of this room, you wake up tomorrow, you probably won't follow up with half the people you met. How do you get them to see you in a crowded room? Well, you got to create a room of your own and not let a bunch of people in. That's what I try to do. I try to create the room of my own, bring the people in that I want to meet, and then I get a chance to have my own audience with them. That's what you have to do in business. If you're in a room, and Javed is here from Clark Construction, who's one of the largest builders in the country, if you're trying to all meet Javed today, he's probably going to take everybody's car. He's not going to remember you all. But how do you get Javed to come in your room where you are the only speaker? Then he gets to know your story, right? And then now you can call him, and when you call him, he's going to remember you because he came to see you. You didn't come to see him, right?
Wow. And we also learned,
I was just going to add, I think another thing that folks don't realize that organizations like CASIA, that's a membership organization, you should strongly consider joining one. The reality is that we exist, organizations like ours, I mean, there's many of them, but organizations like ours create spaces to create networking opportunities. Our goal, every single event, we have over 30 events a year, and I have Cindy here from the team, who's our membership manager. We talk about, we never create an event just to have an event. Every single event, our goal is always that members get to connect with people they otherwise may not be in front of. So we bring in the commissioners for the city agencies, we bring in stakeholders, we bring in, like Clark, they're one of our members. We bring these folks together knowing that our members, who are the majority are small minority women, they want to meet them. They don't have that opportunity. So we create smaller events to have that opportunity. So consider joining an organization. It doesn't have to be SEA, although we'd love to have you. But join an organization that has that cause and that mission that aligns with your business, and have them also, they're your spokesperson too and an ambassador to help you. Use that and leverage that as well. Just wanted to add that.
Well, that's perfect. I simply was going to reflect on this morning from Ms. McNeil. Diligence pays off, persistence pays off. She made 52 phone calls, one a week for a year. Strategically, positioned herself in a place with the individuals she wanted to meet, and created a space where he couldn't will out of it. And then he actually apologized for never returning her 52 phone calls, and they subsequently did business together. So persistence is another one that pays off. Another lesson from my former boss, John H. Johnson of Johnson Publishing Company. That's fine.
And I was going to say, if you're in the room, have a plan of action once you're in the room. And the plan of action shouldn't just be about you. You should find ways to help others in their leadership. So it may be a situation where somebody really wanted to meet Cornelius, or they wanted to meet Dilla, and they come to you because they studied you on LinkedIn and said, oh, I see you have a friend here. Would you be willing to introduce us? And then I'm not going to do that all the time, but I may say, hey, I'm going to an event, and they're probably going to be there, but it can't be just you with your hand out and your own agenda. How can you be helpful to them? Can you volunteer at an event that they're doing? Can you do a community cleanup? Or how can you help them so that Cornelius talked about getting married? It can't be just one way. You've got to add value to who you're reaching out to at the same time. And when we're talking about elected officials or corporate officers and things like that, the same thing applies. They have so many people pulling at them and always asking. But if you're able to give and volunteer and some sacrifice on your own, you put yourself in a different, they see you differently than somebody that's trying to get your own bag to their benefit. And trust me, they're watching through social media. Somebody's watching, and they're looking at pictures, and then they may go, I didn't know about this symposium. I wanted to meet Cornelius or John. Why didn't you tell me about that? That ain't my job. But then they see it, and you whatever your brand is, spend some time really thinking about what your personal brand is, the values that you have, and then your reputation, because people are talking about you, whether you know it or not. And you don't want the negative aspects of what people may say, past clients and things like that, to be the narrative about you. So you should be the narrative. You should manage your own story through your storytelling and your brand telling.
Well, we're getting close to the wind down, and I just wanted to reflect on a few things. And to close out with your thoughts, if you respond to either of these two questions. We know about having to respond to the problem that you want to solve for your business. But what is the why that keeps you moving? What is the why that gets you up in the morning? And the other part would be the giving that you are speaking to now. Mr. Griggs, you spoke about how on payday you pay everybody else and yourself last. I said, what? But it's truly in that spirit of giving, so being able to possibly speak to that. So the big why, what keeps you moving and motivated, and the power of giving. And knowing that it's not just about making money. It is about transforming lives. Subsequently, transforming communities. Subsequently, building great cities. Anyway, why don't we start with you, Mr. Weber?
I appreciate that, and thank you again for allowing me to sit among this distinguished panel and sharing what I've learned over the years. We talk about giving, empowering the next generation of people, whether you're in the brown community, black community, female-owned, veteran-owned businesses. Creating, it's not just philanthropy or a goodwill, it's good business, right? To create the bench to the folks that you can work with and bring them up to through the procurement process. But we're creating these partnerships that reach into the communities that help our business as well, right? We're looking for, as if you're a prime, you're looking for partners in the community that can help tell your story. And those are multiple ambassadors that you can empower if you do business with those folks. So that helps us, I think, as well. So it's good business, and it's a way to give back. But why do we do this every day? You know, I do it for my family. You know, I do it. I remember as a young person, not educated in this world, not educated on business. I looked up at somebody and they said, "Why don't you try this?" Just took that one spark, and from there I said, "I can do this." And I've done that for other people, and they've done it, and I've seen them 10, 15 years later, they've done something pretty amazing. So I think all those touch points that we give as we evolve as business people, we really do give back, and it helps create that middle class and empower the next generation. So I'm happy to do that.
For me, why I do it is it's to be of service. Like I said, I spent my whole career in real estate and assets and trying to be a shark and all that, and it really doesn't serve me. And Muhammad Ali, you know, in my mind, I always hear Muhammad Ali's voice. It's like, the champ is here. Everybody knows Muhammad Ali. He's my mentor too. The champ is here, and I wanted to have that sort of salutation of how can I leave it better. In my office, I have a whiteboard, and it's written just on the board, leave it better. So whenever I walk into my office, I see leave it better. Muhammad Ali famously said that the service that we do is the rent we pay. Like if your life is only about your car and your suit and your cufflinks or your fancy, and I like all fancy things, clearly I'm very fancy. But I'm not someone that's like, that's just who I am, right? That's just not who I am. And if anybody, I love Black Panther, so there's a scene where Prince T'Challa is like fighting M'Baku, and his mother, Queen Rwanda, she goes, "T'Challa, show him who you are," because he was losing. And he didn't have the strength of the Black Panther and all that stuff. So show him who you are. You know, I may not be in the seat of CPS, you know, forever and always. I may not be, you know, in certain roles, but I know who I am and how I show up and who I serve. So if you lead on a lens of being of service of many, then you'll see it just keep like spilling down. Each one reach one, each one teach one. It just keeps going and going. And when I can see the impact of a small thing like a small business getting a small contract for just even a $10,000 catering job, that was the $10,000 they need to pay the mortgage for a couple months. So it's not just the $116 million or the $900 million or the $1 billion or the half of this, because at Chicago Public Schools we get a lot of punches. You know, every day you can turn on the news and you can see CPS is CPS. But quietly, I will say for the people that I work with, we are loyal servants to the city of Chicago. And I'm like Chicago until, you know, my grandmother born in Cook County Hospital in 1922. I am a Chicagoan. And I cannot be of service and say, "Oh, I love the shy, and then just complain about it. We have the right to complain, like our weather and the heat and politics. But if you're making a difference and you're adding value, if you're going to open yourself up, not just for self. Obviously, I want you to profit. I'm a capitalist. I want you to make money. But Ms. McNeil said it. She's like, if you can't have profit and you can't give, right? You can't be philanthropic and benevolent if you don't have profits. So if you have the profits, and I know a lot of you have money, do something good with it. And don't just be bogged down on credentials or status or class. Because there's a lot of that too, the credential, the paper stuff. Give somebody a shot. That ex-felon, that person that dropped out of school, give them a shot. And when you are in the room, and just like Mr. Griggs said, don't just try to, what can you do for me? And like Claude said, how can I get on? That is just the worst thing, because that's all we hear all day. Like, blaze happening. So just think, I help and get an elevator pitch. This is something that I want everyone to work on. 30 seconds to describe who you are and what you are. So my elevator pitch is very simple. I'm Tina Laurie Harris. I'm a daughter of Chicago, and I'm a steward of many. I don't have a job title. I don't have any profile. I'm a steward first. Be of service. Be kind. Be compassionate. You know, all those things that people say but don't do. A random act of kindness that no one sees you do is more valuable than the ones when you're getting a picture taken. So just be heart-centered. Leave it better. Our city, it's the greatest city, you know, there's a freaking city in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Thank
the
you.
greatest city.
Thank you.
That was really lovely. I can tell you that just like Cornelius, my day starts very much like yours, and my daughter Blair and Carlton can say that the first thing we think about is protecting the people that work for us. I mean, we may have upwards of 150 people, but a lot of them have families, or their cats or dogs or whatever they love. I'm not trying to be ridiculous like the whole cat thing with you know who, but seriously, and they are depending on us to have a viable, stable company. All we sell are services. I don't have any widgets I'm not selling anything retail. We sell the service of people. And that is a hard business to maintain year over year. People trusting that you're smart enough and capable enough and continuing to give you a job as a consultant. And so what's always on our mind every day, don't we talk about it every day, Blair? You know, making sure people pay us, because Lord knows sometimes they don't. And making sure we can take care of the people and find jobs for the folks that work for us. And I tell people all the time, I didn't start this company to become a millionaire. I wanted to live out all of the things that I couldn't do working for other people, which is to help my community. Because the answer to all these problems with crime and joblessness is that, and I'm just gonna talk about black folks because I'm black, that we have to help our own people. And that is providing them with internships and mentorships and taking the kid that people were telling me, he's a little troubled, Ellen, but taking that person and bringing them into the fold of an environment that is supportive and encouraging and giving people in our community a job. So that's what keeps me, all of us, going every day, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm inextricably tied to my ancestors. So the why is to continue the fight for fairness and justice that they fought. And I'm tied to that, both spiritually and in my soul, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
My why is I'm a mother of 2, 6 and 8, and it was sad to me to hear my daughter when I asked her, we talk about what we want to be when we grow up and all that, and I threw out there, President of the United States, and my 8-year-old's like, Mom, women can't be presidents of the United States. Broke my heart. True story. They're my why every single day, right? They're the future of this city, the generation, and so I do it for them because I do strongly believe we're going to be so much stronger when we're working together and not against each other. And so I want them to see that in me so that when they grow up, they're able to say, my mom always taught us to work together, and be strong and have a strong work ethic, and just keep doing from that lens. So that's my why.
Mr. Briggs.
I think I would kind of second everything that everyone else has said. Of course, family is most important. You get up every day. You want to make sure I have a 21-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. I want to make sure they're good. But when I started my business, I really wanted to change communities. Our mission is to develop people and transform communities. And we focus on kind of these three pillars. I grew up in Cabrini Green. We didn't have good health care. We didn't have access to good housing. We had poor educational systems. That's what my company builds all over the country. You can walk around the west side of Chicago. You probably walked in and out of buildings that we've built. If you've ever been to the old Cook County Hospital, or we've converted it to a new Hyatt hotel and office suites for the health and hospital systems. That's a facility. Ever been to Pullman National Monument? We converted Pullman National Monument, the only national monument in the city of Chicago, the second only national monument outside of the Lincoln Monument in the state of Illinois. We do a ton of affordable housing all over the city. I'm the first Cabrini Green resident to build new affordable housing on the land of Cabrini Green. We have, that is the purpose and the why I get up every day, is to change the community so that some young black kid on the street corner, like I used to be 26 years ago, will wake up and say, I can be Cornelius Griggs. And I never had that. So if someone can see my sign on a building, see my picture outside of a gate, and say, damn, I can be that guy, that is my why. That will change someone else's life, give them a chance to do exactly what I'm doing, because we up here on this dais can't do it alone. We have to have other businesses that decide to follow in our path and create opportunities for others. So that is my why every day.